Hi, I'm Deb with Quite Clever Quilting. So glad you joined me today. Today we're going to be working on a Bodacious block series, the card trick. So let's start on our 24-inch Bodacious block card trick. We're going to need B's and A's today. The A's are the 9-inch size and the B's are, I believe, 9 1/4. So let's start with the A's because they're going to be the easiest one for us to work on. We're just going to take our 4 colors and draw a line on each of these once on the diagonal. Once we have that done, we're just going to put a background A, right sides together, background on top of the color. And then we're just going to sew a 1/4 inch on one side of the diagonal. So we're just going to put, again, backside, background, face up, our color, right sides together. Then we're going to sew on the 1/4 inch away from the diagonal line. So here's the diagonal line, a 1/4 inch away from it. And we're going to do that for all 4. So again, it's just a scant 1/4 inch. And this one we can chain stitch, so we'll just keep sending them through until we have all 4 sewn. We're just going to cut this off and then back to the ironing station. We're going to first cut on the drawn line. So if you want, you can sew on the other side of this drawn line so that you're not really wasting this. You'll have 2 and you can use this for another project. I'm just going to leave it loose because I'll be using it for something different. Make sure you're cutting on the drawn line. And I'm going to be pressing to the background. And I just give it a little spray to help it stay in place. Finger press it open. And iron. And we'll do that for all 4. By spraying it, it just helps keep the fibers straight and gives them a little bit of strength. Now we're just going to square these up to the size that we need. And I believe that's 8 1/2. So my ruler has the diagonal line on it, and I'm going to line that up with the diagonal line here. And then trim it to 8 1/2. There's the 8 1/2 mark, 8 1/2, and I have the diagonal line on the diagonal, so I'm good to go. So I'm just going to trim those off. And then turn and trim again, lining up the 8 1/2 on the edge, checking the diagonal line, making sure it's on the diagonal, on the sewn diagonal line, and then cut. There. So I'll do that with all 4 of these. So we have all 4 corners done of our card trick. So I'm going to put those right up here for now. Now we're going to take the B's, which are the 9 1/4 inch square that I've cut into quarters. So I'm going to do that same thing with the other, for the colors that we have. I'm going to cut them into quarters because I really only need 2 of each quarter. So I can just line these up and then cut them. Cut on the diagonal once. Move these to the side. Turn. I want to line this up on something straight. Move it over. And once I have it on the point and this lines up, I can cut again. Now I have 2 of the quarters. I'm going to be sewing a background onto each piece of the colored fabric. These I'm going to be sewing together. These each get one of the backgrounds. So I'll go ahead and do that now. So we're just going to be doing a 1/4 inch seam on each of these. And again, we'll be squaring this up once we have the whole block together for this section. So I finished chain stitching, and then I'll take it back over and press them open. And I'm pressing towards the background again. Now we have these triangles, and I'm going to be pulling back the fabric that I took off earlier. So this is the yellow, and the green is going to be going next to the yellow, like so. We're going to put these together and then sew a 1/4 inch line on it. And next to the orange is the blue. So those two go together. And next to the blue goes the yellow, and next to the green goes the orange. So again, I'm just going to be sewing a 1/4 inch seam along this edge. And again, I've pressed it so there is some stability to it. And I'm going to be pressing towards the solid piece as opposed to the seamed piece. Now we're going to square these up to 8.5 inches. So I'm going to be using the diagonal line as the guide once again. So now we have the side pieces done, and the only thing left to do is the center. So let's get that done. We have the 9.25 inch piece that we've cut into quarters. And I'm just going to lay it out so that it's correct order. So this is the layout. So let's just work on this centerpiece now. I'm going to be sewing these two together and these two together. Line it up. Line it up. And we can send these through the sewing machine. So when I press these open, I need to be mindful of which way I'm pressing. So I'm going to leave these attached so I don't get mixed up. I'm going to lay them right back down here. I'm going to turn, this one stays to the left, this side will flip to the right. That way when I press it open, the seams will be in opposite directions. And it just helps to snuggle those seams together. So you get a better finish. And then this one opens up this way. Now I just put these together. I'm going to snuggle these seams together. And so this is lining up beautifully. Now we're going to just press this open. Normally, remember, we would be able to press with a twist, but this side is more difficult because we didn't send it through the right way. But I can clip these little seams right here, and it'll help open it up. I'm just looking for a flat seam is really what I want. I don't want a bulk. So I press from the top. This side's going towards the orange. Get that one down. And the other side, I'm going to be pressing towards the yellow. Yay! So now I am ready to assemble it together. So as usual with our quilts, we're going to pick one column and sew them together, and then we're going to sew the next side together and then the rows. So I'm just going to flip this over and line them up so I can send them through that sewing machine, lining up the top and the sides so it looks nice. Since I have a diagonal line here and on this side, on two sides, I'm just going to snuggle them together to help it look a little nicer when it's finished. I like this quilt, the card trick. It's just a fun Fun quilt to do. You do have to pay attention to it when you're constructing it to make sure the colors are going in the right spot. But once you're done, it looks fabulous. I just love it. So let's make sure we have it all in the correct order. Super. So now we're just going to add this side to the ones already sewn. And then I'll throw some pins in just to hold it in place, not necessarily going to keep them there. It just keeps the fabric together for me. Remember, I threw a pin in just to hold it together. I'm going to take that out now and then now line it up. Again, I have two diagonals that meet up, so I'm going to make sure they snuggle together. Fabulous! Okay, now we decide on pressing. Which is the best way? So looking at this, I see that I have 4 intersections in the center. So I'm deciding that it's better to press those away from that center. So that means these top ones are going to be pressed towards the centerpiece. These are going to press out, and then these are going to be back in towards the center. So let's go ahead and do that. Remember, this one is going to go towards the center block. And the reason why I want to do that is so that these seams will all snuggle together nicely for me. These are going to be pressed away from the center. I'm going to lay those down. Just flip. Again, I find it easier to finger press first just to keep everything in order, and I'm not stretching any of the fabric, especially all the pieces that are on the bias. Bias will go away, go as far as you want, anytime you want it. So I always am very mindful of the bias. It will stretch in a heartbeat. So again, these are going to be pressed in towards the center because the other ones were pressed out. So in towards the center. I've already lightly sprayed it and just press. So now we just have 2 more seams to do and we are done. See how fast and easy this is? Flip this up. And so I'm going to be mindful of my intersections, my seam intersections here and here, and make sure that they hit right on. So one way to make sure that happens is to take your pin, snuggle it together, and just put a pin right on that seam so you know it is doing it right. Okay, since I'm coming up to the pin, I pull it back or out and then continue stitching. Try real hard not to run over those pins. It does not do good things for your sewing machine. This is what we have so far. I'm going to see if I can do the seam twists on this. Yeah, it seems to be doing it, so I think I might try just twisting the seams while I have it small. So I'm just going to spray it again. The flatter you can get your seams, the better it is for quilting it, whether you're doing it by hand or having a long armer do it. That's why I always take my time when I'm pressing. I want to make sure my seams are nice and flat. Just makes a nicer finish to it. Even if your piecing is not perfect, having it flat and pressed makes it look a lot better. You can hide a plethora of sins by nicely pressing. So now we're ready for just our last seam. I'm going to flip it over. Again, snuggle those seams together and pin it. And then we're just down to sewing 1 seam. All right, let's see what we have. But first, let's press. And again, let me just see if I can twist these open. Now the side, I'm just going to press to one side. Let me look at it. Since I have a big intersection here, I'm going to press away, and that's okay. So let's see what we have. Ta-da! It looks fabulous. This is the card trick. Super fun. Just make sure you're paying attention when you're sewing it together. This was our Bodacious block, the card trick. 24-inch block. Remember when you're doing this one to be mindful of your color placement so that it's correct. It is a little tricky, I will confess. But I hope you'll join me next time with Quite Clever Quilting on another adventure. I'm Deb. Thanks for joining me.